Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Last week we talked about knowing God as the most important and superior form of knowledge. We also mentioned the freedom we have to explore and engage in critical thinking and intellectual reasoning regarding matters of faith. This essentially relates to one of the various methods and ways of acquiring knowledge in epistemology, or what is known in Arabic as Nadariyatul Ma'rifah. However, Islamic scholars have once again emphasized that human beings have an inherent inclination towards recognizing God. This means that the urge to worship a higher being is innate within us, which they refer to as intrinsic nature. And today we'll be reading about this from something that I copied from a book called Theological Instructions by Sheikh Misbah Yazdi. He's an Iranian Islamic theologian and philosopher who lived from 1934 to 2021. Let's see what he has to say about this. In most of the discourses of saints, Gnostics, and philosophers, we find that knowing God is a natural instinct of man and something that is inherent to him through his intrinsic nature. In order to understand these definitions, one has to define the meaning of intrinsic nature. In Arabic, the word Fitrah is used to imply a type of creation. Such things which are related to intrinsic nature are called fitri, and are those things whose creation depends on something already existent. We consider those things which are fitri to have three distinctive features. The first one is that different creatures all have a similar intrinsic nature within their species, although there may be variations in regards to it being strong or weak. The second one is that things related to the intrinsic nature in the course of history have been determined as being permanent and perpetual. The third one is that the intrinsic nature is self-sufficient from education and training. However, it can be intensified and guided through the existence of discipline. This intrinsic nature of man can be divided into two parts. A. Cognition related to the intrinsic nature endowed to man and not acquired through learning. B. Those tendencies and impulses which are related to the intrinsic nature and are essential elements in the creation of every individual. On this basis, if awareness of God is established within every human being and is not a thing that man needs to acquire through research, then it can be called knowing God through intrinsic nature. And the interesting thing about what he is saying is that this theory had already been backed and attested by the Holy Quran, where it says, "So direct your face towards the religion inclining to truth, the nature of Allah upon which He has created all people. No change should there be in the creation of Allah. That is the correct religion, but most people do not know." As you can see here, it mentioned religion as something that is natural, something that is perpetually present in every individual, which drives human beings towards spirituality. That is why we see some people, even at the peak of their materialistic and hedonistic lifestyles, asking these profound existential questions like, where did I come from? Where am I? Or who am I? Or what's the purpose of life? Just searching for something that will grant them peace, because even though they have this immense material wealth and comfort, they are never happy, they are never satisfied. So they start engaging in these spiritual practices like yoga or meditation or anything like that to sort of fill that spiritual void. He continued to say, if all humans have the tendency towards worshipping God, it will be known as worshipping God through intrinsic nature. We have indicated that most of the experts in the field of anthropology and psychology have regarded the tendencies towards religion as psychological and have labeled it as a sense of religiosity or as a religious sentiment. We must emphasize that knowing God is based on man's intrinsic nature. However, the intrinsic nature of knowing and worshipping God is not with full awareness in a manner that it will suffice ordinary men from intellectual reasoning. One should not forget that the element of knowledge by presence exists in every individual to a lower degree and is perfected through intellectual reasoning. So here he is laying out a very important point. He says, despite the fact that knowing God is intrinsic and innate, it doesn't contradict acquiring that knowledge through intellectual reasoning as well. And simply relying on its natural and intuitive aspects does not suffice ordinary people due to various reasons, primarily because society and other factors play a significant role in suppressing those natural and divine religious impulses. He says in conclusion, cognition of God based upon intrinsic nature means that man's heart is aware of God and his spirit has the potentiality of knowing God with full awareness. That's all for today, and peace be upon you.